Y'all are often paying more for forged composite over carbon fiber, and it's honestly bullshit if you take a second to think about how carbon is made. See, carbon fiber number one has to be woven into the desired pattern, whether it be Ferrari's signature 1x1 carbon, the usual twill pattern that you see on most cars, or some unique way of doing it. And if I have to give Mansory any credit for anything, it's this carbon weave right here. See, that's sick. Also this. All right, where was I? Right. You're being robbed. Normally carbon is woven, then sheets of carbon fiber are layered on top of each other, cut into the desired shape, then under immense heat and pressure are pressed into the desired mold. Not quite sure how the plastic or the resin is applied. I'm sure it varies per manufacturer and use case, but it results in a material that's nearly as light as plastic, but more rigid than steel, but also more brittle. This is why when cars with carbon fiber body panels get in accidents, they don't bend, they crack, they snap, and they shatter. When cars with carbon monocoques get in accidents that cause frame damage, there's usually no rebuilding it. Like at that point, the car is just cooked. Like you got to get a new frame and take all the working parts off the old chassis and put it on the new one. And unless you are Tavares, your Rich Rebuilds, Matt Armstrong, unless you're Hoovie's Garage, just take the insurance money and get a new car. Extremely long, complicated story made, somewhat medium short. That's how carbon fiber is made. Forged composite, when made correctly, undergoes a similar process of heat and pressure to get the desired shape out of small pieces of elemental carbon. That's if it goes through the same process that it takes to make carbon fiber, and a lot of y'all are getting screwed out of y'all's money, often paying more money to get the forged carbon variant. From videos that I've seen from some of these companies that sell carbon parts and make them in-house, they're literally taking leftover cut up carbon from when they were making the actual carbon fiber, drop them in the mold, add epoxy, and let it dry. There's no heat, no pressure involved. Okay, sometimes there's pressure, but often no heat, and that's what's clearing the carbon of any impurities that aren't carbon. Therefore, you're possibly losing the structural rigidity that carbon's supposed to offer. And while I don't think that matters when it comes to trim pieces, I also don't think that you should have to pay more money for lower quality carbon. And honestly, if you absolutely have to have forged carbon, go and look at how Lamborghini's looks. Notice how there aren't any distinguishable shards of carbon and how it's had to fold to immense pressure for a considerable amount of time and actually looks smushed. Now, you're probably not going to find any aftermarket forged composite that looks like Lamborghini's, and I'm assuming that's because they might sift for certain shapes and sizes of carbon strands to make it. And you'll notice that the shapes of the individual shards of carbon from any company that manufactures forged carbon have a different look because of the variety of shapes of carbon that they might use. But if it's actually been treated like it's supposed to, it's going to look like it's been smushed, like it's taken a significant amount of pressure to be molded into the shape that it takes. That being said, if you still want forged carbon after watching this video, I don't think you deserve to pay more money for a worse part just because you prefer an aesthetic that's honestly quite easy to produce, especially compared to some of the more expensive carbon fiber weave patterns. Go on Alibaba, where half these companies get their parts anyways, and you'll find the exact same forged carbon parts for a similar price as the regular carbon fiber. Stop getting finessed.